Okay, so that's why I told you don't rush to do test plan first. Test case first. We need to do the test plan. We need to get some information from there. Later, we will transfer into the test case. Okay, so test suite here is actually a group of test cases. So normally, any relevant modules or any relevant functionality, the test cases will be grouped together. So it means they need to be tested together. So okay, this one is depend on this one depend on this one. So normally we group them, or we can call like a detailed group or a subgroup of test case. So this one we call it test case. When it comes to group of test case, we call it test suite. Okay. So this is to create the test objective based on the requirement, the functional specification, which we identify in the test plan first. Okay. Then to create a traceability matrix to provide an associate between the requirement and the test object. So we call back SRE. You should have come up with the traceability matrix, the table of how the functional requirement connecting to another functional requirement. So the same thing goes in our test plan. We need to also prepare the traceability matrix, but I take it out. Okay, because we don't have list of requirement for our assignment. Do we have SRS for your selected system? We don't have that documentation. So what we are trying to do is we check on the functionality. We are testing the functionality, but we don't know the list of requirements for that function. So we cannot come up with the traceability matrix. Okay, so we take up this from our test plan. Okay, but traceability matrix is actually showing the relationship between the requirement and also our test object, which we are going to test. Okay, so that's why since we don't have this requirement part, so we take out from the test plan. Okay, then the next part is our test environment. Okay, so I have been saying this again and again. Development environment, operational environment, test environment is in the between. Okay, so is development environment similar to operational environment? Is the development environment, it means the programmer do the coding development, is development environment. Operational environment is where the end user using the developed system or the software. Is this two similar environment? No. Because whatever being used to develop will not be used by the user again to run that developed software or application. Okay? So we in the between test environment need to be set up so that we can test the developed system similar to the operational environment, so that we can test and know the developed system can work accordingly or not later in the client side. Okay. So this test environment, for effective system test, we will be planning for the test bed. Another term for test environment, some people they use test bed. They don't call it as a test environment. They use the term test bed, not for sleeping. It's actually referring to the environment where we are doing the testing. So when we say environment, we don't refer to the how is the lab look like, how is the temperature, is it raining or is it sunny day, not that kind of environment. What we are referring as the environment here is all the devices, the software, the hardware, the data we need, the network, testing tool, anything which we need to set up as a test environment to run the system. That is what we call as the test environment. Because when we say environment, students imagine, oh, it's a computer lab with the chair, desk, No, we are referring to the group of hardware, software, test data, network, testing tool, any additional equipments needed. So the setup of this is what we call as a test environment. So normally we have to come up with the test environment when we are starting to test at the system level. Normally, when we say unit test or module test, normally the developers will be doing it at the development environment. Because they do the coding, they will test them together. But when it comes to integrated as a system, so now we need a proper environment to run the system. So that is when we will set the test bed or the test environment for us to test the system or the higher level than the system at that environment. Okay? So budget limitation normally will be always a challenge, especially when maybe for years we have get used to doing manual testing. So all of a sudden someone is proposing, okay, let's start to have automation testing too. So it means involve money. Okay? So for everything which we want to set up as a testing environment, we need to make sure that can we able to have the facilities or not. So budget will be always a limitation faced by the company when they want to have a proper setup. And normally we used to be sharing the test environment because you might not work with one project at a time. You might be having few projects running and need to test different systems at the same test environment. So can it be working multiple different systems? So all these will be involved with the proper equipment. Okay. Then other than that, for any system, for example, you are coming up with a mobile application. Are you going to buy all the brand, all the spec of mobile in the market? Okay, so normally we will have like simulators where we will be using to run the tests. Okay, we just have to have like a soft way how we can run the system, the application on different mobile based on different brand, different operating system, different screen sizing, whatever resolutions, everything. But we don't need to buy the real mobile outside there to do that. Okay, so we can have any other ways how we can actually do the testing. But it's still part of the testing environment. Okay, so depend with what type of system, okay, how we need to prepare the test environment. Okay, to test an e-commerce system compared to online banking system, we might need something different because we cannot use the same test environment to test two different domain of system or two different domain of application. For example, we have Maybank 2, we have web application, we have mobile application. Can I test these two using the same test environment? Cannot. It's not going to work well. It's not going to even work. Okay? So we need to identify the right test environment, set up the right environment so that we can test the system or the application without any issue. Okay? So normally the more complicated the system will be. For example, we have distributed system. This all can actually cause challenges for us to set up the proper test environment. If we don't set up the test environment accordingly, of course our testing will have problems. It's either we cannot continue with the testing because the test environment might be crashed, might not be supporting the testing, or maybe we don't able to do the testing, we might not able to get the accurate result. So all this can be the side effect, how we are actually setting up the test environment. Okay, so this is just an example for distributed system where we might need something additional compared to normal system. Okay, So normally for setting up with the test environment, we need to have a proper planning, okay, based on what we plan, that is how we are going to set up the test environment. And if we have to buy any equipment, anything, like for example from manual testing, now we want to start to use RPA testing tool. So we need to buy the testing tool. So any testing equipment and also installation of this to make sure that everything is working fine. Okay, we cannot just say that, okay, we are done with the test environment, but we didn't even test if the environment is installed accordingly. Is it working accordingly? Remember, one of the test entry criteria is testing environment. We have to make sure that the testing environment has been set up. So when we do set up, we don't just say, okay, we done the setup, but we need to review also if the test environment has been set up accordingly or not. Okay? Okay, so this is about the test cycle. So I have mentioned that when we start to do the test case execution from the first test case, okay, until the last test case for the entire system. This is what we call as one cycle. One cycle. Okay? So normally the goal of the test cycle is to make sure all the test case must be executed. Okay, later when you do your test case, you will have to put the numbering. So that numbering is the unique ID for every test case. Okay? So when we do the test case execution, when we completed the execution of this test case at least one time. At least one time means we do the test case execution, we got the answer, we got the result. Either it's a pass or fail. So it means we have completed the execution. Okay, so when we able to complete from the first test case until maybe we have 500 test cases. So we have executed all the 500 test cases. So it means we have completed one test cycle. Okay, if we need to do any retest, what is retest? To repeat the test case execution. Is it any changes happen? When we say to repeat test case execution, is there any changes happen on the test case? No. So it means we just want to confirm the test result which we achieved on the first test cycle is correct or not. So we will do the second test cycle. So second test cycle here means I will start the test case execution from my first test case until the 500 test case again without any changes. Okay? So normally we just want to make sure that all the test case executed at least one time. So we complete one test cycle. So complete one test cycle means can be our test exit criteria. Did we complete that one cycle? Yes. So we have achieved one of the criteria. Okay? So let's assume if we have any failed test case happen. So from that 500 maybe we have 10 failed test cases. Failed means when it happened? When it will be a failed test case? When it will be a failed test case? When?
The result is different.
It's not. When we have the actual result which is not tally with the expected result. Because when we prepare the test case, testers will already give all this information. For example, I'm the senior tester, you are the junior tester. So I prepare the test case. So when I prepare the test case, most of the information I will provide it in the test case. So part of it will be expected result. Got it? Expected result. So I pass to you. You do the test case execution. When you do test case execution, you follow back what I have mentioned in the test case. You don't do anything by yourself. You are not allowed to do that. You have to follow what I have already mentioned in the test case. So when you follow that, now you will see what actually happened. So you need to fill up the actual result. So when you have the expected result and you have the actual result, now you can decide either these both they are tally or not. So if our actual result is tally, it means it's balanced with what is given in the expected result, then our test case will be passed. It means I expect to see A and actually I'm seeing A. So it means pass. But when the actual result is totally something else, or it's not even doing something as what we mentioned in the expected result, so it means it's a fail test case. So that fail is actually can be affecting our past test case percentage. So sometimes what we need to do, we need to rerun the test case after the debugging has been done. So it means, let's assume the percentage of failed test case which we accept. Okay, only the low severity defect which is not disturbing the functional or the non-functional of the system. So we allow to reach 5%. Because we know that this 5% will not stop the system from working. Okay, so let's assume when we do the test case execution, it's already 7%. It's already 7%. And 4% from those defects, from the failed test case, is actually disturbing the functionality or disturbing the non-functionality. Remember, we have discussed the classification of defect: failure, requirement failure, non-requirement failure. So if we have 4% which is actually disturbing that and bring the failed percentage to 7%, then we need to fix it as soon as possible. So when we fix it, we need to retest again. It means we need to rerun the test case execution to confirm that the defect has been fixed. So now when it's fixed, from 7%, we only get 3% of the failed test case. So this actually still achieving what we want to achieve for our test exit criteria. So when we able to achieve our test exit criteria, it means we are done. Got it? Okay. So revert criteria at any instance, so let's assume if the failure cost reach 20% of the total number of test case to be executed. So this actually can be part of the continuation criteria. Remember, under the transition we have three. One is test entry criteria, when we want to start the testing. Test continuation criteria, either we are going to continue the test or put it on hold first. That is actually part of the revert criteria. Then the third one is exit criteria. It means we are done with the testing. Did we achieve all the exit criteria before we end it? So we have 3 stages of transition to happen. So let's assume when we do our test cycle, 20% of the cost is actually reached because of the failure test case. So it means the system is not good. The system is not functioning as how it's supposed to be. That's why we can reach 20%. 20% is huge for failure cost. So it means we are testing something which is full with defect. Are we going to continue that? Better not. Because this 20% will be keep on increasing. So it's better to hold the test and then pass back the system to the development team for them to fix it. Because we don't want to waste our resources because the system is full with the defect. Got it? So this can be one of the criteria for us to decide either to continue the testing or to put it on hold. So normally, like the first few days, we will check on this. Like let's assume 5 days, huh? So you have started the testing on Monday. So today is Thursday. So tomorrow we will check. So when we check, if this is a high percentage, it means we will hold the test. Correct? So this can be part of a risk. Our project, this can be happen when the system is not able to be continue the test. So when it not able to continue, can it cause delay in our testing schedule? Yes. Got it? So this will be type of risk which we need to check how we are going to manage that. So let's assume we take another 2 weeks for the development team to come back with the latest version of system. So it means we already wasted 2 weeks. How we are going to recover back? That is how we manage the risk. Okay? Then the exit criteria. So as what I've mentioned, we have to make sure that all the test case must be executed at least one time. Okay? And if it's a failed test case, we will execute 2 times. Because we do the test, we identify it's a fail, then after fix it, we will retest them. So can be 2 times. Other than that, all must be executed at least one time. And from the completion of one test cycle, this number is not a fixed, it's depend with you. But don't put very low. You cannot say 80% of fail are pass test case. So it means you have 20% of failed test case. How you are going to deal with it with your client? So that's why we give like minimum 95%. Okay, so it means 95% and above must be achieved. Okay, so if we say 95% must be passed test case, it means I have possibilities of 5% of failed test case. Correct? And if this 5 become more, it means we did not achieve this criteria. So if we did not achieve our test exit criteria, can we stop the test? Cannot. Okay, so that's why for every transition, we need to identify the criteria which we can fulfill before we move to the next stage. For example, for us to enter into the testing, for us to exit from the testing. Okay? Okay, so this will be test execution criteria. So we need to decide how the test execution should be proceed. So test execution means we are referring to the test case execution. Okay, so we need to identify an appropriate sequence of the test cases. Okay, so normally we can see maybe high critical functionalities. We start first. Why we need to start with high critical first?
Make sure not too many effects.
Sorry?
More testing.
More what?
Testing.
More testing. Why more testing?
To set
Why we choose high critical functions to test first than the lower critical functionalities?
because high critical is not any defect.
If we say high risk or high critical, it means the possibilities of this defect. Is it there? High possibilities of defect is there. So is it not better to deal with the high critical functionalities so that we can able to detect the defect earlier so that we can spend time fix it first. Then to keep this at the end, and maybe we are already like, okay, left another one more day. Based on our testing schedule, we have another one more day where we need to complete the test. And that is when you start to test the high critical and you cannot fix the defect by one day. So that will be actually dragging the timeline. So we don't want that to happen. So normally, how will be the sequence for us to do the test case execution is important. So for example, we start with high critical, then move to low critical. Or maybe we start with functional first and then move to non-functional. Or maybe we start with any dependent test case. For example, like the preconditions must be tested first. For example, if I want to test on the login, I have a precondition test case. Sign up, correct? So for me to do the sign in test case, I must test the sign up test case first. Only if the sign up test case is passed, I can proceed with the sign in. So normally this can actually be the reason how we want to have the sequence. Okay? So normally when we say the test case sequence, it depends with how we want to do the testing. Which one we need to start first, which one is depend on another one. So all this is what we need to decide. And also how many times do we need to do the test case execution. Okay? And other than that, maybe we want to start with one test suite with another, followed by another test suite. So for example, I have module A, B, C, D. So each of these module, all the test cases, I group them together. So you are handling module A and maybe you have like 20 to 30 test case for your module. So we group them under test suite 1, test suite 2, test suite 3. So which one we need to start first. So that can be actually deciding the sequence how we will do the test case. Okay? Executing is once it's called a test cycle. So like what I've mentioned just now, when we execute all the test case one time, it means we complete one test cycle. Okay? So the major reason for using a number of test cycle is whenever we want to do a confirmation. Okay? So this is part of the criteria. If we want to complete our test, we must make sure that we have complete one test cycle. But in any unexpected situation, it can go more than once. Okay, so for example, when we want to have a retest, okay, repetition of test, or when we want to do after the debugging, then the cycle can be more. But in a normal situation, complete one test cycle is enough. Okay. Okay, so this one is when we do start the first cycle. So normally it will be based on the test entry criteria. Okay, is our test entry criteria fulfilled? Then we can start with our first test cycle. Okay, then the next thing is test estimation. So as part of test planning activity, we need to have test estimation. Okay, so test estimation here is how a project manager or the test manager work together to do the estimation of budget, estimation of resources, estimation of time. So it means we are planning to conduct the testing. So let's assume we want to start on the 2nd January. So now we are doing the planning activity. So we need to do the estimation. Because end of the day, we want to make sure that we do the testing within this estimation or you go beyond that. If you go beyond that, you need to answer. Why all of a sudden the budget from maybe 30K becomes 60K? What you have done? Why double up? It means something is caused a problem and you didn't work on it accordingly. Especially when there is risk happen and you didn't control the risk and it caused other issues. Then automatically our budget, our time all being affected. So it means the estimation which we do, we did not able to follow. Okay? The reason why we need to produce test plan, the document of what you plan, because this is the proof of what you want to do. Okay? Then you do the test execution. End of your test, you need to produce test summary report. Test summary report, I will discuss later in our chapter 9. Okay? So this test summary report is overall summary report of your testing. So now you have the test plan, you have done the test execution, you have test summary report. Now your boss is going to compare what you have planned and what you have done from your summary report. The good part, the bad part, everything you need to summarize it into a summary report. So how many percent from your test plan you actually follow? If you able to follow 100%, it means good. You have estimated correctly and you have followed accordingly and you have completed the testing without any issue. But let's assume from the 100% you planned, you could not even follow 50%. A lot of issues happen during the test execution. Everything is more. And people even run away from testing. Testers keep on resigning because you did not handle the team accordingly. So all this is a problem. So it means what you planned, you did not able to follow. Is this something good? No. So it's a very important how we actually do the estimation. Okay? So effort estimation is normally more to the resources. So like what I've mentioned, when we say resource, we have 3 different types of resource. Human resource, how many testers we need, how many going to do this, how many going to do that. That is human resources estimation. Effort here more to humans work. How much work do they have to put? Okay. Then we also have material resources. How much material we need for us to execute the test. Then we will have cost resource. It means the money. Okay. So for us to complete our STLC or for us to complete our STLC, we will have to do this effort estimation. Okay, and doing the right estimation is very important. Okay. So because the resource can actually deal with a major costing, because it's involved money. So how many number of testers we need for us to do the test case execution, to set up the test environment and so on. And then for the material, how much money we need, okay? And then if we need to have anything additional like new software testing tools and so on. So all this is actually involve money. So when we set estimation, we must make sure that we are not wasting any resources. For example, you say, oh, we need 10 testers, but actually you don't even need 10 testers. You can complete it with 5 testers. So it means you have wasted 5 human resources. So the same thing goes to the cost and also materials. Okay, so this is some example of techniques normally will be used on the software project. Okay, test point estimation, work phase based estimation, and use case point estimation. So this one I think you will discuss in your software project. You have one called software project management, right?
Yes.
There is one course in your year 3, sem 1 or sem 2. So you will be discussing more on that. Okay, so here test estimation. So test estimation is more to how we are doing the estimation on the testing related task. We are not talking about human here. Task. Okay. So we want to finalize the test scope. Okay, because we need to know what we are going to cover. Remember, your test scope is very important so that we know this is what we will cover, this is what we will not cover. So when we say this is what we cover, we have to make sure that do we have enough resources for that or not. Do we have the right number of resources or not? Do we have all the tools? Do we have all the testers who knows this or not? So that's why it's a very important task. So to finalize, to identify and finalize test scope is a very important task, like a primary task. So not necessarily a particular task should be completed to start the next task. So this is very important for us to identify the task dependency. You have discussed this when you prepare Gantt chart. Which task you need to start first, which one you will need to wait until you complete this task, which one is actually need to start together, which one need to start earlier, which one later. So this is actually task dependency. So when we do our task estimation, we need to know this task dependency and the right task to start end to end, so that we will not waste resources, we will not waste time. Okay? So the task dependency is this form, which you should know, okay, which is finish to start, start to start, finish to finish, start to finish. I'm not going to discuss detail about this. You should know really. So it means the task which need to be finished so that you can start. For example, task A need to be finished so that you can start the task B. Okay, then start to start, it means task A need to start so that you can start with task B. Okay, then finish to finish, the same thing, where you need to finish so that you can finish this, because you still depend on the completion of the previous task, and then start to finish. Okay, so actually I have example of that. You can go through by yourself with the sample of the task. Okay, finish to start, start to start, finish to finish, and start to finish. Okay, so the next part is the test effort. So when we said test estimation just now, it is more to task. Okay, test effort estimation means human. Okay, so it means how much work is required to be done by you. So let's assume I have 5 testers here for my testing. Okay, so each of these testers, how much effort they need to put, how much work they need to put. Okay, so it's very important for us to know how much people we need. So for example, I have only 5. Even though they put 200% of effort, we still cannot complete. So it means I need more. Okay, so we have to make sure that we do the right test effort estimation to know how much work need to be done by the testers, because we don't want to overload testers, because it can cause other issues. This is why testers run away in between, because they cannot handle the pressure. Okay, so we need to do the right effort estimation. Okay, so normally we can say based on how many numbers of test case must be created by one tester per day. Okay, create and execute will be different people. Of course, for your assignment, you will be the one create the test case, you will be the one execute the test case. Okay, but in the reality out there, not the same person. So the one who understands about the requirement and so on will be the one prepare the test case. Okay, and this test case will be reviewed, and once it's finalized, then it will be passed to maybe other testers, for example junior testers. Okay, then junior tester will be the one execute the test case. So when we say we want to estimate the test effort, we need to know how many numbers of test cases can be created by one person. With their skill, with their experience, with their knowledge, how fast they can create the test case in a day. And the same thing goes, how many numbers of test cases can be executed per day. Because from there, we can estimate the timeline of our testing. So it's very important for us to estimate the right number of effort. Okay, then other than that, the effort needed to set up the test environment. So in how many days we can set up the test environment, how many testers we need to do that. Okay, and then if we need to do any training, so let's assume we want to newly use RPA testing tool. Can I expect everyone already know how to use the tool? No. So for me to avoid any issue later, what I need to do? I need to conduct a training to make sure that everyone knows about the tool. So it means we need to have the effort to do the training itself. So it means how much effort we need to put to conduct the training. And other than that, the availability of testers. Because when there is any issue, you cannot just simply disturb the testers. Especially, of course, that's how life will be. In the field, in the future, you cannot expect you can sleep in a base. Okay? Sometimes you need to work, sometimes they all of a sudden call you, and some of my friends even used to be sleeping in the office. So this kind of things can happen when you are software engineer. Okay? That's why I even run away from that field. I don't want. Okay? Because this can happen. So the availability of testers is very important for us to know. Especially if you are working on multiple testing. So will you be available or not? So all this is part of the test effort estimation. The reason is so that we will not lack of testers or we will not waste the resources. It's very important. We use the right effort estimation. Okay, so that's it for our chapter 6. So the first part of STLC. Okay, I have covered the requirement analysis and also the test planning. So our chapter 7 will be actually it's touch a bit about the test case and also test environment. So our chapter 7 will be more detailed about test case and also the test environment. So we are covering each of the phases of the STLC. Okay, so until chapter 8, it will be 3 different parts of STLC. Okay. Got it? Do you need a break? Do you need a break?
Yes.
How long? Not until you will go for and take breakfast or no, huh? I will complete this, then I will let you to go early so that you can go for breakfast before your 11 o'clock class. Say okay? You can take 5 now. Then we will discuss the tutorial 6. Okay, then I will let you go early.
Miss, for the midterm until chapter 7,
Yeah.
cannot chapter 6.
No, cannot. What?
1 year.
I will still cover it before your midterm, so no worry. That's why I put your midterm at the end of the Thursday. So that you still have time to settle everything. Okay, so let's discuss this question. Okay, so the first question is doing requirement analysis. Okay, so requirement analysis is the first phase of the software testing life cycle. So what quality factors are focused? So when we do the requirement analysis, before we start with the test planning, so we have certain quality factors which we need to check on the requirement. I think 6. So what are the quality factors? Correctness,
consistency,
consistency,
testability,
testability,
feasibility,
traceability, completeness. Okay, so each of these factors is something which you have been discussed on your software engineering course. Okay, so the same thing, but here when we say the quality factors, it's more focused before we want to plan for the testing. So it means the requirement must be complete, must be correct, must be consistency, so that it will not give disturbance for our testing later. And then testability, every requirement must be able to produce the test case for us to conduct the testing. Then we have the feasibility, so that we can able to do the testing within our budget, within our timeline and our facility. And then we also have the traceability, where every requirement able to be traced back based on our test case, our test result, even our defect. Okay? So the next one, explain test entry criteria and test exit criteria of a test, and then give an example for each of them. So I have been discussing this again and again. So what is test entry criteria?
criteria to
Fulfill before start the testing. Okay, the criteria which we need to fulfill before we can start the testing. When we say entry here, it means enter into the testing phase. Okay, and when we say exit, it means exit from the testing phase. So when we say test entry criteria, it means the criteria which we need to fulfill before we can enter and start the testing. Okay, so what are the example of the test entry criteria? I mean, not for your assignment. Generally, what are the test entry criteria we have? We have produced our test plan, our test cases. Okay, so first one is the documentation. So it means all the relevant documentation, especially the test plan, test case, must be produced and reviewed. It's very important, the review that. Not only produced, but must be reviewed and must be approved, right? Then only we can use it. Okay? Then other than documentation, what other criteria?
in order to complete the test.
The environment. When we say hardware, software, data, it means test environment. So it means the test environment must be set up. So set up means for us to conduct the testing, the environment must be there, ready. So test environment means all the required software, hardware, data, network, tools, equipment, devices, everything. Okay. Then other than that, another one more. Test entry, normally we can have many. Test exit is the one limited. Sorry? It's part of test environment. Test data normally we will include as test environment. But if you want to separate it out, can also, no problem. Okay. How about the system itself? Don't we check on that system? So let's assume if the system is a newly developed, so we will use that the system must pass the smoke test. Remember, we have used this smoke test. It's not to test the smoking. What we are testing here?
Before the real testing.
What is the purpose of the smoke test here?
Make sure that all the function is complete.
Okay, so normally the developers must conduct the smoke test to confirm all the function has been included, the system is stable enough to start with the testing, and there is no major defects, no major failures will happen. They must guarantee that. Development team must guarantee that. Then only software testing team will accept the system for them to start the testing. Okay? So other than that, if the system is still in a developing stage, let's assume we cannot wait longer. Maybe 95% the development is complete, 5% is not complete. Do we need stop driver? For us to complete with our testing, when there is any missing code happen, okay, then we need the test harness, or we call it as a driver or stop in case. So we need to make sure that we have generated that. Okay, okay, done with the test entry criteria. Test exit criteria. Examples, you should know what is test exit criteria, right? It means for us to stop the testing. Not stop like temporary stop, right? It means we have completed the testing and we want to exit from the testing phase. That is test exit criteria. The criteria which we need to fulfill to complete the test and exit the testing phase. Okay, it's the opposite of test entry just now. Okay, so example, the only 3 example.
All tests get executed. Execute all the tests.
Okay, so it means we have completed one test cycle by execute the test case at least once. All the test case has been executed at least once. Then it means we have completed our test cycle. Okay? Second. Sorry? The percentage of the pass test case. So normally you can give the number that you want to put 95% of pass test case or 97% of pass test case, can. And you can also mention the minimum. Maybe we can put minimum 95% of pass test case. Can I get more? Yes. Okay. But if it's below 95%, did I achieve the criteria? No. Okay, that's why we want to use the word minimum. Okay, then when it comes to failed test case, you can use the word maximum. Maximum 5% of failed test case, or maximum 3% of failed test case, for example. Don't get confused. Wrongly use this minimum, maximum, then it's a big trouble. Got it? Can I say maximum 95% of pass test case? Cannot. Okay? So minimum 95% of pass test case, maximum of 5% failed test. Got it? And you can add another one more criteria where we do the retest of the failed test case. Okay? When we identify failed test case, it means we do the debugging, then we do the retest. But for your assignment, can you include this criteria? Because we are not going to do anything about the failed test case. Just in the test case, we will indicate it's a fail. But we are not going to have any bug tracking, bug reporting, and also debugging. So in that case, we cannot do the retest. So don't use that as your assignment test exit criteria. It's not suitable. Okay? Got it? So, out of these two, we have something in the between. Am I right? Which is not here, but we have something in the between. Test continuation criteria. Remember? Of course not here, but we have one. Test continuation criteria. What is that? To decide either to hold the test or to continue the test. So normally what can be the criteria for us to decide?
The environment being stable.
Okay, the stability of the test environment. Okay, the percentage of failure cost, or even the percentage of failed test case can be used also. For example, in the first 5 days we start the testing, we already have 5% of failed test case. So what happened another 3 more weeks, 4 more weeks? We can have like 30% or 40% of failed test case, the possibilities. So it's better to hold it. Okay, so normally it can be due to the percentage of failed test case, percentage of failure cost, and also the stability of the test environment or the system. If the system is keep on hanging, can we continue with the test? It's like not make sense, right? We have been like keep on restarting again and again, so something is not okay. So that's why smoke test must be passed. It means development team confirm that the system is good, the system is stable. But after the first 5 days, first 3 days we started, the system keep on crash. It means they lie to us. So we cannot continue with the testing and waste the resources. It's very important. Okay? Okay. Then explain and give an example for each of these. So this one you can get straight from the lecture slide, the failure, the classification of the failure. Okay, this one. So requirement failure, I will just give you the key point. Requirement failure is the one disturb the functionality of the system. Requirement here means the defect which disturb the functionality of the system. Okay? Then when we say non-requirement failure, it means the defect which disturb the performance or the quality of the system. So this is more to functional, this is more to non-functional. Can see the difference, right? Functional means the functionality of the system. Non-functional means the quality of the system, how efficient, how is the performance, how is the response time. So this can be affected too. Just because your system can do all the functionality, but here is 0, your client will accept the system? No. And the same thing goes, your system is so user friendly, everything is look nice, but the functionality is having defect. Will your client accept it? No. So these two must be balanced. Because some people they think that the non-functional is not important at all. If you are not happily using the system or application, will you open it again? I have deleted many applications like that, which I feel like it's not nice at all to use it. You get it? So it's very important, these two. These two is very important. When we have any defect at these two, something very, very high severity. Okay? Then the waiver requested is when the developers could not do the debugging immediately within the given time, they will request for a waiver. As long maybe the functionality is actually not part of the functional or part of the non-functional area. So they can actually take more longer time. Maybe by end of the testing, they're able to return it back. So they will request for a waiver for temporary reason. Maybe they will focus on this first. Okay, so while then they will hold this. Okay. Then we also have the failure which can happen due to external reason. External means nothing about the coding, nothing about the development, nothing about the testing, but external. Maybe due to the testing tool, or maybe due to the servers issue, maybe technology facilities issue. It can also cause the failure. Test failure is, we cannot blame the development. The blame is testers. When they do the test execution, they made a mistake. Testers made a mistake. Maybe the test data which they generated is not suitable. So they did not get accurate test result. Okay, so this will be more to the tester side. Okay, so when we identify failed test case, we need to know which classification is that defect. Because when we say fail, it means something is wrong there. That's why we don't get the expected result. Okay, so we need to know which classification of defect is that before we can take the further action. Okay? Okay, then discuss the task dependency in the task estimation. So just now we talked about this task dependency. What is this task dependency?
Relationship.
The relationship, okay? The relationship between one task and another task. For us to know which task need to start, need to complete first before we can start another task. Okay, so that 4 type of dependency, the start to start, finish to start, and then start to finish, finish to finish. Okay, that will be the 4 types of task dependency. Can that one? Okay, then the next one is identify the task planning activities. Okay, so we actually have a lot of things we can do during the task planning activities, but I have listed based on the activity. Okay, task planning activities. So just take the important key words here. So we need to identify the test level, the test strategy, and also the test entry and the test exit criteria. This is one activity. We need to know this. Okay, then the second one, manage resource. So manage resource means the 3 types of resource, which is the human resource, the material resource, and also the budget resource. Okay, then for the the task execution, so we need to control and coordinate each of the task execution activity accordingly, and then we need to describe the detail of the task specification and risk management. So these are the the important task activities which we do. Okay, so normally this can be part of the scheduling part. For us to know what are the activity we involve, right? So we need to prepare the schedule. there are some factors which we need to check how we are going to do the test planning. So I have put the factors here, okay, where we have for the infrastructure, the software development process, and also the human. So this will be 4 important factors how it can change the way we do our test planning. Based on this, how we must plan our test. Based on this, if we don't have this, how we do. Okay, so infrastructure is normally, do we have sufficient infrastructure for our testing? Do we have all the devices, all the tools and blah blah? If we have, then this is how we plan. If we don't have, something is still not there, then our planning will be different because we need to purchase. So how long time we have to do the purchasing? Can we receive the tool by the time we will start our testing? So we need to determine all those things. So first one is the infrastructure. Do we have or we don't have it? If we don't have it, what we are planning to do? Okay? Then the second one is the software. So if the software is newly developed software, the software is currently developing, still developing stage, and the software is already developed and already start to work. So we have 3 different types of software. So we need to determine the software if can be tested according to this. If I said we are still doing the coding, we did not complete yet. There is some part which we didn't integrate. So the way we do the test planning is different. Then when I say the software is already developed, 100% done, you can start to do the testing. Then the way we plan is different. So normally the software we need to check. And based on this, it can influence our test planning. Okay? Then the process model. What process model or what methodology we use, that is also can change the way we plan. Because is every methodology work in the same way? Do we have enough sufficient time to test them in the same way? If I say the old waterfall model, is it same the way it worked with incremental model? Is it same with the agile scrum? Are they same? No, totally different. If I say I'm using waterfall model, I have like few months of time where I can sit, do nothing, waiting for the development to be complete, then I will start to work on the testing. And I test the entire system one shot. Correct? And if I say incremental model, how many times of testing I can have? Because I will have different incremental happen. So I will test module by module, maybe 4 or 5 times. Okay? Then if I say agile, even worse, right? We just have 14 days. In 14 days, what we produce. And in that 14 days, what we are going to test. So it's in a very small sizing. So this is deciding how we are planning for our test. Okay? Then the last one, of course, the human. It means the human resources which we have. Let's assume I'm dealing with a senior tester. The way I plan will be different. Because they don't need some things. They already know some things. But if I say I only have all junior testers and they are waiting for instruction, then the way I plan will be different. So this can be the factors which can influence the way we do the planning. Okay? Okay, then the next one is test environment. So test environment or test bed is actually a collection of all the required hardware, software, data, network, testing tool, equipment, devices which will be needed for testing. Okay, so we need to set up the test environment for us to conduct the testing.
resource.
The human resources. How much work must be done or must be completed? Okay. So when we say test effort, it means how much effort every testers need to contribute. Okay. How much effort or how much work every human resources must contribute for the testing purpose. Okay, so this can be measured by how many test cases they can create, how many test cases they can execute, how many hours they will need or how many days they will need to set up the test environment, how many days we need to conduct the training, okay, and then what else was just now? The availability of testers. It means how many hours they will be available for us to join our test execution. So this is indicating how much effort. Okay? So effort here is more to human resource effort. Okay? Can? So that's it for our chapter 6. Any question? You got all the answers, right? For all the questions? Okay, so if there is no question, then we are done for today. Don't forget to mark your attendance. Not today's one. Oh, shit. Take the name of everyone and drop me message.
我传进电脑再放。
Miss, next week.
不然你自己下载的手机，大陆那边这干嘛？
Your specialized. One question for each chapter. Our chapter 1 and the chapter side. You don't need to bring extra papers all. I'm not sure because I already provide the spacing in
然后
the
这些设
question.
然后两个好了，
In
弄摄
case
影
if your handwriting is so big,
，space 啊
then
我帮
come
他
with
解
the
释啊，这样做，他也送可能是有开就
with
开
the
了
subject.
因为有时候就打字可能会错，真的不能错。
Like control flow graph, we have three different things to do, right? It's one question, but with the sub question.
Hello. Hello.
哦，你是写啊？因为我是20号生，记忆力蛮的。
Thank you, miss.